Hello and welcome to a new video, this time again about JavaScript for Apex developers. I'm Philipp, product lead, and let's get started. So today we're going to look at client-side validation, but first, what are even client-side validations? To understand that, we have to understand what are server-side validations. These are just the typical validations you can see in the page design on the processing section, where you can hear the validating section. When we create a validation here, we can type it in PL/SQL, meaning it runs on a database on the server. This is the more secure way, and you should definitely always have server-side validations too. But the disadvantage or the downside from it is it only runs when you submit the page. From a user experience standpoint, imagine if you have a large form, your users may like to get immediate feedback, like when they type into a field and something is wrong, then they immediately get an error. And that's what you can do with client-side validations, because they run in the client, in the browser. It does not need you to send anything to the server. You can just immediately hook it up with JavaScript. So here's an example, like here, I type something in this number field and it tells me must be numeric. So how can we achieve this? Your friend, as always, is the JavaScript documentation. You can access it via apex.oracle.com/JS API. And here then, on the left, in the namespaces section, we have an apex.message namespace. And we're going to look at it here. And mostly interesting is the function section. And here we have the function called show errors. And this is exactly what we need. With that, we can show errors on the page. So down here is an example. So it's called apex.message.showErrors. That's a function call with the brackets here. And then we have the square brackets, meaning we pass an array to it. And then we have curly brackets here, braces. And that's objects, JavaScript objects. You probably know them from JSON, meaning basically we pass an array, so we can pass multiple ones, and each error is containing an object, meaning it requires basically multiple attributes and values to know what's going on. So in here, the first example, we pass a type. And here the documentation even documents these attributes. So it's a string and it says must pass error. Other notification types are reserved for future use. Currently there is none, and this is here for a long time already. So maybe someday there will be more supported. Location, this is interesting. So it can either be one string or an array of the values inline and page. So inline is the one you can see here. That's basically inline to a page item, so it's immediately shown next to a page item. That's really cool, because it gives you an information here is your info, here is your error. What you can also do is this page thing. So let's actually do an example of that. So from last review video, you already know that if you can right click inspect, or you can press F12 on your keyboard, you get the browser development tools, and there's this console tab, and that's our JavaScript playground where we can test things. So let's paste our function call, and we're interested in this page error message. And when we execute that, we can see this yellow message. You probably have seen this a lot already in Apex, but this is how you can trigger it with JavaScript easily. So yeah, I like, for example, for the page items, these ones are better because they give more context to where the error is actually originating from. Sometimes you don't have an item to point to. And sometimes, if you have a huge form and you scroll basically a lot, it's better to also show this, because this is always present on the page. It's floating in the UI, where, for example, if I scroll down, I might not even see this. So yeah, you can do either both, or page or inline. Then we have the message. What is the error message? Sorry, first the page item, if we do the inline option, and then unsafe. And this is for escaping reasons. This is basically security. Note that if you put your error message here manually, it's not dynamic, it's just typed in there, like in this example, you don't need to put it to true, because you just type here what you like and there could be no security issue. if like a user can have influence over this message, then he could put like HTML in it, and that would be harmful, like running some scripts. Then you want to put it to true, because then it's going to escape the message, making sure that no JavaScript can run. Okay, great. So let's actually see how we can implement this. What I did, I added a dynamic action called change item on this number item. And it's just a change, listening on a change event on the item p3 number. So anytime I change the item, meaning not typing into it, like change is fired after I exit it, if I changed it, then it runs this JavaScript code here. And this is just a static show error. So actually I fooled you a little bit here. Currently, it's also firing if I type a number in here. So that's obviously wrong. But yeah, so let's correct this. So first, let's create a function that actually checks if there is an issue. So I prepared something. It's a function called validate number value. And we can pass a value. And if the value is empty, and that's one thing of JavaScript, we could also do value equals empty string. But like we could also do like JavaScript is weird in a sense that it also has like undefined. Sorry, it's two things. That's not concatenation from pre-SQL. This is an OR in JavaScript. But there's also null. There's both undefined and null. I won't go into that meaning, maybe later. But so yeah, this would also work. The thing is like this is too long and I'm lazy. So we can also do just if not value. And this basically then JavaScript transforms this into a Boolean expression. And it's called like falsy if it's like not value. And which values are falsy? It's like the ones that I showed you before, like undefined, null, empty string. And also, and you have to be careful about that, a 0. The number 0 is also falsy. So in math operation, math checks, this might be an issue for you. So basically, or I think also like empty objects are also falsy. Okay, so if not value, return true, meaning basically if there's no value yet, we don't have to check anything. That's fine. Like haven't typed a value yet is not an error. Then we do a regular expression. So regular expressions are not a JavaScript specific thing. They also work in SQL and PL/SQL and many other programming languages. If you don't know them, I really recommend checking them out. They are really powerful string checking tools. And I just created one to check if the string is a number. So basically this thing marks the start of a string and this one the end. So we're looking at the complete string, not part of it. And then we have in square brackets, here we have like in there, these are the allowed symbols. Meaning that it's 0 till 9, that's basically a short syntax for any digit. And then we also allow the minus, meaning that we allow for negative numbers. At the end, we have a plus, meaning we will match this as multiple times. So without this would only check the first character. Oh, sorry. With this, we're checking like this repeatedly. So till we reach the end of the string. Okay, like note there is a small issue here. Like for example, we could type 1 minus 1. That's not a number, but it's just for demo purposes in here. And you would still have your, of course, your server-side validations, and you won't be able to insert 1 minus 1 into a number column in Oracle. So then we will just return number regex or test, and this will just check, basically run this regex on the string. If it matches, then we return true. If it doesn't match, then return false. Okay, great. So now we have to implement the check. First, we want to get the value. So const num val equals apex.items.p3 number.getValue. And if you don't know what this is, you probably haven't seen the last video in my tutorial. I highly recommend that you check it out now and come back later. If you already have, then you know this is the way how we can get the value of inputs in JavaScript. Notice last video I showed you get native value, and by that we can get the value of p3 number as in JavaScript number typed variable, whereas this get value gets us a string value. In this case, it's fine to get a string value because we want to actually check if it's a number. Like we can type ABC in there, so then get native value probably already messes up and maybe returns nothing instead of the string we want to check. Okay, so now we're ready to run the check. So const valid number equals, then we call our function with our numVal. And then we just, if not valid number, so we just check if it's false. So again, we could do like equals false without the not here. That's literally the same, but I just prepared. I really like this not syntax. It's shorthand. And so yeah, this would now be false. Again, the falsy values is actual false, empty string, undefined, empty object, null, and 0. I think I forgot to tell you false is falsy, of course, before. And then we basically just show this one if we get a validation error. If this function returns false. Okay, perfect. Let's actually check it out. So 1, 2, 3, great. If we add an A, we get the error message. Perfect. There is one issue. So if we now remove the A, we still have our error. And the thing is, like, if we once get the error state, it's there. We have to basically clear the error. And that's what actually the documentation showed us to do before. First, clear the errors. So actually, like, anytime we check, we actually want to first clear the errors. And then, like, if it's fixed, then the error is cleared from before. If it's still not fixed, we just add another error and it's visible again. So fine, let's test it again. 1, 2, 3, perfect. 1, 2, 3, A, it's an error. Remove it, perfect. This is again an error. If we now put it back to empty, also the validation error is gone. Perfect. Now to the next example. In this one I want to validate a date, and my validation for it is it should be in 2025. So again I'm going to get the date value, const date val equals apex.items p3 date, and now I will call get native value because it's better for us to get this one as a JavaScript date, because with the JavaScript date I can easily extract the year from it. If we just have the string here, we might be able to just like process the string to just get the last 4 digits of it. But keep in mind, maybe like in the future you want to support multiple globalization standards, like different date formats for different users, and then this logic might fall apart. Whereas if you handle a real date object, like you don't need to think about that. And luckily, like Apex, this is a date picker item, and on a date picker item, if you call get native value, you will get a JavaScript date. What's a JavaScript date? Good question. Questions like these always go to MDN and type, for example, date. MDN is the best documentation for JavaScript resource online. And if you see it, we can see JavaScript date objects represent a single moment in time in a platform-independent format. Date object encapsulates an integral number that, so basically an epoch time, like a Unix timestamp. And the nice thing about it is here, this section, we have like functions on the date object, like get full year, set full year, etc. minutes, day of week, etc. You can easily manipulate them, but yeah, for our example, get full year is what we need. So let's add another function in here. Sorry, this didn't work. Validate date. We pass a date val, so it needs to be date object. If it's empty, again, return true. We extract the year from it, get full year, and we return if it's equal to 2025. Okay, so const is in 2025 equals validate date, and we pass our date val, and then we can copy this check, and if it's not in 2025, then we pass one to p3 date. And notice like how it actually checks here that the item exists. That's super nice. And then we can add it must be in 2025 as a message. Perfect. Okay. There's one catch now, because remember how this dynamic action here only fires on p3 number. What I could have done, of course, create a new dynamic action on the date item and like attach to that. But there is one issue. Remember how we have to call the clear errors here? And the thing is, like, clear errors, you can't actually pass parameters. So if we go to the documentation, clear errors, it has no parameters. So you only clear all errors. So imagine user goes in here, types something wrong. Now here, we run this validation, this would be cleared. And we don't want that, right? We want to have all errors at the same time present. So that's why we need to run basically all validations at all times. Hope this makes sense to you. But that's why, yeah, it's in the same script here and in the same dynamic action. The only thing we have to do, we can like rename it to change items. And then we also have to hook up the date item so that now this dynamic action runs if we either change the first or the second one. So let's test it out. Error. Fine, still error present. And if we change the date to 2022, it's complaints. Perfect. That's what we wanted. So now let's add the last example. Passwords should match. And so I have, let's do this quicker. I have already prepared something. And this is just inline a check if apex items password 1 does not match password 2, at least their values. Then we show actually 2 error messages, one for each item, and say that they don't match. So now I type, oh, I forgot to hook them up to the items, right? So A and B, they don't match, right? And if I type A in both, they do match. Notice how, like, if I type in here, it's already complaining. That might be not the best user experience. I could easily, of course, add a check in this if like this one is empty, then don't run it, just only run it when both are actually filled. But I think you get the point of it. So yeah, that's it. I think it's fairly nice and easy. It's always obviously not always worth your time to add client-side validations to everything. If you have forms with a lot of users and maybe users even complain that it's only validating when you submit the page, then it may be worth your time to add this. Other than that, it's a nice way to get used to JavaScript. And please remember, you also need client-side, server-side validations. Client-side validations can be manipulated. I could go into the code here and modify like something like the change. I could deactivate the change listeners to this thing. I could modify the functions and run the validation so it appears to be right. So you always need to have also server-side validations. At best, you already implemented good types for your tables. So for example here, this one, like you can't save a string as a number field in Oracle, or use constraints on your tables that will make sure nothing goes wrong. So you could also add a check constraint that basically checks if a date is in 2025. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe if you like this video. Let us know in the comments if you want to see more and which topics interest you. And see you in the next video. Bye bye.